Hi, everybody. Welcome to Why Eagles Why. Did you ever think you would hear these words? The pre-Super Bowl edition of Why Eagles Why for the Eagles as they toppled the San Francisco 49ers to get into the big game. Dave Bontempo, Pete Amato, Bill Gelman with you. You know how we do the show. 4 quarters plus overtime. Please hit like and subscribe to be notified about future videos. As we break the huddle, first quarter, great to see you guys. And that was some kind of game for the Eagles in getting into the Super Bowl 31-7 over the San Francisco 49ers. Pete, first thoughts.
I didn't think it was going to go down like that, but I wasn't too worried about the game. After looking at like each position, I just thought the Eagles just had a lot more talent, and they had to face a rookie quarterback that hasn't seen a defensive line like them. I know when I said that in the last video, we got some 49ers fans commenting saying we're delusional on this and homers, but we were exactly right. Yeah, he was knocked out and he got injured, but he was knocked out and got injured because our defensive line was just so overwhelming. Like he that whole game, even when Josh Johnson came in, he was knocked out too. Even if Purdy was in the game, I feel like it wouldn't have went much differently. I feel like he hasn't seen a defensive line like that. He hasn't seen it, and our secondary is good too. So I just think he's a rookie quarterback. He's inexperienced. He was in a little bit in over his head, and the Eagles knocked him out of the game and then knocked the other guy out of the game. So, I mean, it wasn't unlucky for them. It was, you got to block our guys better.
Before we talk about the second quarter of that game, in which it did look a little bit dicey, Bill, your first overall thoughts on how that game played out?
It's not the way I expected to play out. That's for sure. I mean, you look at the box score and the offensive numbers overall weren't eye-opening. The defense clearly dominated that game, and it's unfortunate that this was an NFC Conference Championship game. San Francisco was already down 2 quarterbacks heading into the game, and they ended up being down another 2 quarterbacks. So this was really not a fair matchup when it came down to it later in the game, because they couldn't throw the ball, and if you can't throw the ball, you can't win the game.
That did hurt them, as Purdy was injured early in the game, and he had been a key factor for them. And let's connect them with Josh Johnson, who came in, and before he got hurt, he led the 49ers to the drive that tied the game 7-7. And then, Pete, the Eagles were about to be taken off the field in the next drive before the roughing the kicker penalty on the punter. But we were exchanging texts saying, there's something a little wrong with this offensive scheme at this point. It looked like at 7-7, the Eagles were tightening up a little bit.
Yeah, it was interesting. They went right down the field in the first drive, and then the second drive, it seemed like they were like afraid to make a mistake. They were doing like short run plays on like second and long, and they did like a screen plays. That had no business doing at that time. So it was a little strange. I mean, that whole game was strange because a couple of things went the Eagles' way, a couple of things went the 49ers' way. The punt off the wire, it was obvious. It obviously hit something, but they couldn't overturn it because they didn't have the right angle or something. And then they gave them like great field position after that. So it was at that point, it was like, okay, what's going on in this game here?
And Bill, we'd seen the 49ers totally dominate teams at the end of a half. And they did that 2-for-1 thing where they score at the end of the half. They get the next kickoff in the second half. They score again. Your offense is off the field for an hour and they take teams out of the game. But we saw the 49ers make mistakes on the drive in which the Eagles went ahead that we never see them make. And that turned 7-7 into 21-7.
Yeah, and I just think this was a case of the Eagles showing how their depth and the talent they have at pretty much every position. San Francisco benefited from playing in a very weak NFC West division. You had the LA Rams, defending Super Bowl champion, who had a losing record. Seattle, they were okay. And Arizona was not a good team. So, you got to remember, you got to take it from that perspective. Whereas the NFC East, you had 3 teams that made the playoffs, with the 4th that was on the bubble toward the very end there. And it's very hard to match up against this Eagles team. I mean, you're thinking about it. You have 4 guys just on defense, 4 guys that have double digits in sacks. And Haasan Reddick is a game changer. We keep talking about him. He once again came up big, forced fumble. I think he had 2 sacks in the game.
Yes, he did. Yep.
Fumble recovery, I think. Yeah, the fumble recovery as well.
Yeah. So it's I think it was just a case of the Eagles showing that they were the better team. Having the home field advantage definitely helped. And again, San Francisco just they got their behind the 8 ball, and they definitely, in the second half of the game, they definitely lost their composure. They were doing stupid stuff because they were the game was getting out of hand, and the refs are calling the penalties on them, and it's and the fact that it had to be frustrating, the fact that they couldn't, other than like a very short screen pass, they didn't have the option of passing the ball. So the Eagles knew exactly what was coming.
Haddon Heights' own Haasan Reddick. People were texting us, "Hey, I've got this bet, Haasan Reddick to get a sack and the Eagles win." Got the text right after his first sack. "I'm going to go cash the money now," the text said. Had to wait till the end of the game, but it was money in the bank. When we come back, let's talk about the coaches in this Super Bowl, because that has a Philly ring. Second quarter of Why Eagles, why a little bit of a coaching focus. Andy Reid and Nick Sirianni, 2 coaches now who have brought the Eagles into the Super Bowl. And there's a love fest going on in Philadelphia about the coaches and about the Kelsey brothers. The first time brothers have faced each other in the Super Bowl. Pete, this really has a Philly tone to it.
Yeah, it's exciting. When it was down to the Bengals and the Chiefs, I kind of wanted to see the Chiefs anyway, because I thought it would be even a better story with us against Reid. We have the Kelsey Bowl. 2 likable guys. They have an awesome podcast that I listen to. Jason Kelsey tweeted like right after the Chiefs won. He's like, "I'm no longer a Kansas City Chiefs fan this season." So it was pretty funny. But yeah, I'm excited, but also a little nervous to go against Andy Reid. We all know how Andy Reid does when he has a week off. His bye weeks, I don't know if he's probably still not undefeated his bye weeks, but for a while there, he was pretty much undefeated. I know when he was on the Eagles after his bye week. When he has time to game plan, he's a dangerous guy. So he has the experience. He's been here before many times now. And Sirianni and his staff is very inexperienced. They haven't been there, but they've shown that they can keep their composure. So it's going to be interesting to see how these games are coached.
Bill, I'll leave the door open for both coaches for you. But one thing about Nick Sirianni last week, he made a big challenge, which helped on the first possession for the 49ers. It resulted in a fumble recovery, and Kyle Shanahan did not on the Eagles' first possession, which was the Devontae Smith catch that wasn't. We saw a little bit of savvy in Nick Sirianni in that big situation last week.
Yeah, I mean, the cards were going the Eagles' way. I guess it's the best way you can put it. I mean, it's the reality is the first replay they were showing of the Devontae Smith catch, it definitely looked like a catch. It wasn't until that second replay came up that you could see the ball clearly hit the ground. And, the Eagles played it right. They just got right in the huddle, got the play off before it could be reviewed. I believe I heard San Francisco say that they weren't going to challenge the call because I guess the angle they had also, it looked like a catch. And then let's forget about the call that Sirianni challenged. That was the game changer. That was when Brock Purdy ended up getting knocked out of the game.
Yes. Yep.
So it wasn't so much that the play was overturned, because I don't think the Eagles scored any points on that drive.
No, but they got the ball at midfield, and
Right.
It was a fumble. I mean, they were in position after that, so that was at the time, it was a big momentum swing.
Yeah, it was definitely a big momentum swing because, that the quarterback, the Mr. Irrelevant story, became relevant for a whole different reason than none of us saw coming. And that's a pretty serious injury he has. And it's, Nick Sirianni is showing his, what type of coach he is. I mean, he really put a nice little game plan together. And, there was, like I said, the individual numbers, if you look at the box score, they're not like, nobody had a great game. But, people step up where they needed to. Miles Sanders had 2 touchdowns. And, so guys, overall, it was just a great coaching job across the board. And, they're really stepping up during the playoffs here.
Third quarter of Why Eagles Why? Where do the Eagles have the edge against the Chiefs? Where are they vulnerable? Pete, you're first up.
I think they definitely have the edge on defense. Their defensive line, the Eagles defensive line is unlike any other defensive line in the league. And I think Patrick Mahomes' ankle injury is not going to be a problem. It didn't really look like a problem last game, and now he has a whole another week to rest it. So I think it's going to be fine. I think the Eagles defense line just have to kind of corral him. Don't let him get outside the pocket, because once he gets outside the pocket, he can do anything, really. Chiefs running back, the running game is pretty good. They have a very aggressive back there. He runs through the holes really well. Obviously, I think they have the advantage when it comes to tight end. Even though Dallas Goedert has been incredible this year, Kelsey is on a whole nother level of any tight end. Him and Mahomes basically ad-lib the whole game, so it's hard to prepare for Kelsey. They've already talked about how they ad-lib the whole game. He doesn't really have set routes, so that's going to be a challenge for the Eagles. And I think if Jalen Hurts just keeps doing what he's doing, not many mistakes, if we're able to run the ball on this Chiefs defense and throw it when we need to, I think the Eagles have a really good chance of pulling this one out.
Now, Bill had a halftime adjustment. He's in transit on another assignment, but still reporting to us. So, Bill, in your view, the edges for the Eagles, the vulnerabilities for the Eagles?
The edges for the Eagles are their defense. Because quite frankly, other than Patrick Mahomes, there's nobody, not one player on the San Francisco, wrong game, Kansas City offense that really scares me. Their wide receivers are you look at their wide receivers, like who? There's not a number one wide receiver on this team. The running backs, you got the South Jersey connection, but again, it's not like Christian McCaffrey who's on the other side. But Mahomes is a magician on the field. If he's healthy, he can do amazing stuff. He's won a Super Bowl before. So that's my biggest concern is can they stop Mahomes? Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the game, so you have to stop him. And but I just think this Eagles team, they have something special this year. They're strong at every position, and I just see this being their year. And it's just it's great to see Andy Reid back in the Super Bowl, but I'm glad he's on the other side.
And to Bill's point about Isaiah Pacheco, who is from Vineland and Rutgers University graduate, phenomenal year. And you can read about it at PlayNJ at Bill's site. There will be a story up later this week detailing his journey. This is indeed a South Jersey connection. It's a Kelsey reunion. It's the coaches. It's almost like a family affair with the Eagles and the Chiefs. And in the fourth quarter, we'll take a further look at this matchup. Fourth quarter of Why Eagles Why? Well, the initial celebration is over. We remember it in the 2004 season, the 2017 season, which led to the Super Bowl victory just after that. And now, Pete, another Super Bowl. From where you are and from what you've been mingling and experiencing with people, what is this like on the fan level, the Eagles being in the Super Bowl?
I mean, well, we've always been the best sports fans in the country, in the world, whatever. Philadelphia has the best sports fans. Now we can say our teams are the best. I mean, besides the Flyers, the Phillies just went to the World Series. The Sixers are climbing the ranks right now. Now we can like lean on our teams. We don't just have the best sports fans anymore. We have actually the best sports teams. And that's a really good feeling. And you can definitely tell, being out and about, I was out at Walmart the other day and people are just nicer. It's a fact. I had my Eagles hat on. They go Birds. They talk to me about the Eagles. I mean, usually I go through Walmart, keep my head down and leave, but I must have got stopped by like 3 or 4 people. So, the city comes alive. I mean, when these teams come alive, and I think that's why we are so, people talk about our passion and why we're such a great fan base. I know we talk about that we're crazy and we're mean, but like if you listen to the athletes talk, athletes that played here, athletes that played against Philly teams, they know that they see it from other cities, so they can compare and they see how in tune we are with sports, and that's not, fans aren't like that everywhere. And so I think that's what makes Philadelphia special. We're so in tune with sports, and it becomes part of our lives. So when a team does well, it just creates like an overall good feeling around the area. South Jersey, Philly, Delaware, Jersey Shore, wherever Philly fans may be.
And Nick Sirianni talking after the game about the team's blue-collar ethic in a blue-collar town, which has worked very well. And Bill, I'm sure you've got significant experiences along this line as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how those those utility poles on South Broad Street are still standing between what happened in October with the Phillies and what happened over the weekend with the Eagles. They're getting a workout. And if this team wins the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, they're going to have to put some extra strength on those things because this Philadelphia is going to be going absolutely bonkers. In my newspaper days, I've had the thrill of covering both the Phillies 2008 World Series parade and the 2018 Super Bowl parade. And I like the World Series parade. It was like spring-like out in early November. The Super Bowl parade was it was frigid, but when you're waiting a lifetime for something like that to happen, you forget about the weather. But I digress. I just think there's something special in the air with Philadelphia. We're a big sports city, and finally, after years of waiting, I feel like all the pieces are coming together for most of our teams. Pete mentioned how the Flyers are struggling, but maybe in a couple of years they'll join the conversation. So it's just thrilling to see, and I hope we have after waiting a lifetime for the first Super Bowl parade, I wouldn't mind seeing one like what is it 5 years later.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty quick. And this year there is something special. To your earlier points, Pete, my brother lives out in the Media, Pennsylvania area, and all of a sudden, he's texting me during the game. My nephew out in Altoona, Pennsylvania, just assumed I was watching and writing, which I was. All of a sudden, right in the middle of the game, did you see that play? Mm-hmm. And it's just amazing how the connectivity and the communication a great team and a winning team brings together the thread. And I think we all love the human thread that comes with that. So we'll come back. We'll have an overtime segment, little wild card. All right, final thoughts. Why Eagles Wire overtime segment will be coming to you next week from the Borgata in Atlantic City, talking to people there about the betting and the atmosphere at a sports book during an Eagles game and during an Eagles Super Bowl game. That's going to be off the charts. Pete, what about you?
No football this week. Well, the Pro Bowl. So if you're looking for something to bet on, you can bet on the Pro Bowl. I'm sure DraftKings, FanDuel, all of them have some fun prop bets you can take care of. Also, the Sixers are playing on Sunday against the Knicks. That should be a pretty fun game to watch. The Sixers are killing it right now. Embiid just showed Jokic who the real MVP was of the league. If you didn't watch that game, go watch some highlights of Embiid absolutely dominating him. So that's what you got for this weekend.
All right, Bill, what about you?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to Monday because if you guys remember, we started the season at Borgata. We didn't know how the season was going to play out, and we're going back there for back into Atlantic City for our Super Bowl show. So it's going to add a little extra buzz to next week. Up in Play NJ, we're going to have for anyone heading down to Atlantic City to watch the Super Bowl, we'll have all the details up as to what each of the casinos are doing. So there's a lot to get excited about, and I'm hoping that we have a Super Bowl parade episode after the Super Bowl preview episode.
Well, yes. We'll talk more about that in our next show coming from Borgata. Great to be with all of you. Great to be with my buddies Pete and Bill again. So for Pete Amato and for Bill Gelman, this is Dave Bontempo saying thanks for joining us on Why Eagles Why. Please remember to hit like and subscribe to be notified about future videos.